December 22, 1995, with Mrs. Borenstein. I'm Marianne Cador, and we are in Bayside, New York. Well, when you recovered, how long did you have to stay in Auschwitz?
I stayed till January 18, 1945. Then we had the march from Auschwitz.
Did you know why?
They marched us out because the Russian came near, and
How did you know that?
that's what I ever heard,
You
you
heard
know.
that.
That's what we heard. Everybody was marched out from Auschwitz in January 18. And we marched for days and days until they put us, marched for days. Whoever wasn't able to walk, they were shooting them, you know. Every couple of dead people were weighing go over because was January, was big snows, was very cold, and they were killing people like nothing. Yeah. And we stopped for the night, and again a miracle happened. I was sitting on the snow. We were very tired. A couple of girls, and I fell asleep. It was a very sweet sleep. I would never probably wake up. And like my mother came in my dream, she said, "Get up." And I woke up the other girls too. I said, "Come on," you know. And then they put us, after a couple of days, they put us in open wagons, like the horses, what they, you know, they put us packed up like animals. And they took us for days. We didn't know where we were going, or we went to Bergen-Belsen. And we came to Bergen-Belsen, then was another thing, another death camp, you know. There wasn't any crematorium, or people were just dying from hunger. What was nothing there, you know. They put us in a block, like 500 people, everybody on the floor, one near the other. Or again, I was lucky. I met a girl what imposed in camp, and she swapped me my face because I didn't want to undress. She was in Bergen-Belsen already before me. And she got a bed, a bunk for me, where 500 girls were laying on the floor. I'm with another girl, we had a bunk where to sleep. And she brought us some bread. And the rest, they had nothing. They were just dying, the girls. Then we had to walk out in the middle of the night. There was no place where to walk out because we walked over each other, you know. That's how we lived from January till April 15. I was liberated. April 15, 1945 was my liberation day. And I remember this day, they started screaming all kind of languages.
Were the German soldiers around that time?
What?
Were the German soldiers around that time?
The Germans, they tried to run away already. Was Hungarian soldiers were watching us, or they were no good either, you know. They were shooting and they were killing too. And when I was liberated, I didn't cry, I didn't laugh. I knew I'm alone, you know. I said in all languages, they said, "You're free." Okay, I'm free. Where should I go?
What did that mean to you?
Yeah, it didn't mean anything because whatever I heard the stories, then what I saw in Auschwitz, I knew that I don't have anybody, you know. Then that's...
Who liberated you?
The British.
British Army?
Yeah, British Army. And they liberated us, and they said they never seen something like this. Dead people, you know, were dead people.
How did they react to that?
They were terrible. They brought all kind of food. They brought soups and all kind of food, and they started to eat. And everybody had diarrhea and people were dying. Were dying like hundreds and hundreds, one on top of the other. There was no place. You can't even imagine. They showed you in the pictures. This doesn't mean anything to me.
When you close your eyes, you see this in front
I
of
see
you.
these things every night of my life. I see this thing. How can I forget?
You dream about it sometimes?
Very often.
Often?
Very often, yeah. Very often. When I wake up and I see that I'm in my bed, it's then I said I have to go and kiss the floor, to kiss the bed. And this how
Does it seem real that you really lived this through, that you didn't see this in a movie or something?
It didn't mean anything because I was alone. I was alone. Okay, I lived through and I knew from my whole family. And I kept on asking the same question. Why was I the chosen one? What reason? The reason I should light candles and remember? I don't remember. My parents, I made up, they told me what time of the year. They sent them out in 1942 to Helmno.
To Helmno?
Helmno. They were the picture, what was it? What they showed in the Showa.
Chelmno, C-H-E-L.
Yeah, the Showa. They showed me where my parents were. They showed me in the picture, you know. This
So
was in 1942.
After you were liberated, it sort of became a reality that you have no family.
I had nobody, you know. I started to ask, to show, to look, but I knew I don't have anybody. My parents, when they showed the Shoah, then I knew that they went with them. They had a terrible death. They buried them alive there in Helmno. They were my three sisters and my parents were together, I'm sure.
Were you taken to a hospital or you were in fairly good health?
I was all right.
You were all right?
Yeah, I was all right. I was all right. And when we were liberated, and the black there, what watched us, was girls from France. When they were liberated, they were able to go away, to go back home. Then, like, I was all right, and another two girls. And we took over the black. I went to the British office there, and I ordered bread for them, for the girls from the black. And matter of fact, when I came to this country, I met somebody. She told me I had put away a piece of bread for her. I didn't remember even this.
So you took charge?
You know, I took charge to get things for them because I was all right. The most, 90%, they were dying. They were dying.
Did you plan to go back to Poland?
No. My husband didn't ever want to go back neither. No.
Right after the war, did you ever go back there?
No. I knew I had nothing to see there, you know.
So where did you go after you were liberated?
I was liberated. I was in Bergen-Belsen, liberated. And over there, I was there for a while. I met all kind of people. I met a sister and a brother, religious people. And I got close with them. And they liked me because they heard I come from a religious home too. And I didn't like what went on after the liberation. The people got wild, the boys, the girls. I wasn't used to it. Then this brother and sister, they were very religious. And they said they found out they're opening up a kibbutz, a Chofetz Chaim kibbutz, a very religious, in Salzheim. Salzheim is near Frankfurt, the Main. And they said, we're going to take you there. Or I said, you want to know something? I say, you're davening, you're praying Mincha, you're praying Mariv. I said, I'm not doing this, you know. I know even Auschwitz, I went to work, or I knew my prayer. Till now, I knew my prayer. I went to work and saying every morning my prayer, even in Auschwitz. Or I said that I'm not so religious to daven Mincha Mari if I wouldn't do it. They said, we're going to tell them that you're okay and you're going to come with us. And I went with them to this kibbutz, and I stayed for a while till December 1945. In December 1945, I was in this kibbutz. My friend, we were together in the camp. She came to the kibbutz and she said to me, I found my brother in Leipheim, a camp in Germany, a DP camp. She said, you have to come with me. Then I have to come, or I'm in a kibbutz, I can run out. Then they gave me like a Hofschen, a permit that I can go away for a couple of days. Then I went for tour to this DP camp, Leipheim. When we came to Leipheim there, she found her brother, but the station was standing a landsman of ours, and was my husband-to-be. I met him there. This landsman of mine introduced me. He said, that's Mendel Borenstein, and we got introduced. I came to Leipheim. He went away to Feldafing because he was in a DP camp in Feldafing there. We met. He went away, and I went to the camp with my friend. She met her brother there. After 2-3 days, he came back. He came back. And because we started talking, he told me he's from a very religious family too, and I liked him because he was very honest. He told me all the stories. And I said, whatever you tell me, I have to go back to the kibbutz because I was there. I can't just take it off. After a couple of days, I went back to the kibbutz, and I met somebody there, happened to be from my husband, Tom. He was like a son-in-law from there. And I told him a story. I said, I met a guy, his name is Mendel Borenstein. He got involved with my girlfriend. I didn't want to tell him it's me. And I tell him I'd like to find out what kind of guy he is, what kind of family. Then he told me he's the nicest family from this town, Jeremy. They were a religious family. His father was a Wavnik in the town, was everything good. Or he himself is not so good because I saw him, he was eating without a hat and he's not religious. I figured, just this, I can take it now. It doesn't matter to me anymore. Then after a while, I said, pulled me back to go back to Leipheim. I said, over here I'm with strangers, over there I have a friend, and I met a couple of my once white, they were from my town, and that's how I went back. I went back in January 1946 to this DP camp to Leipheim, and I got involved with my husband. I liked him. He was honest. He was good looking. All the girls were running after him. He was a dancer, he was a singer, he was everything. But I met a landsman of mine. My husband had told him, please don't tell her. I know you know Kafka, you know from home, and don't tell her the things what you know about me from Auschwitz. I want to tell her this myself. Or this guy, he was a friend of my sister, my brother. He didn't remember me because I was much younger. He came to me and he said, I know you got involved with Mendel Borenstein, or you cannot marry him. I said to him, why can't I marry? He said, we have plenty guys from our town. I said, but I'm not interested in the guys from our town. I like him. Then he said, you cannot marry him because you're the only survivor from your family. You want to have children. He had an operation in Auschwitz. They experimented in him. And they took out a testicle. And I don't think so he's going to be able to give you children. I was very naive. I didn't know even what he was talking. I was stupid. I said, whatever he went through in Auschwitz, I was there too. I wouldn't throw him away for a reason like this. Then he kept talking to me. He said, don't you want a name from your father? Don't you want a name from your brother, from your sister? I didn't know. I was so alone. I didn't have anybody to ask questions. Then when he came to me again the next day, he saw that I'm not the same. Then he was very upset. He said, I begged him, he shouldn't tell you because I wanted to tell you the story. I didn't want you should hear from somebody else. And my husband got very depressed. He said, you want to know something? I went to a doctor in Germany already. He said, I went to a doctor after the liberation. And he said, even they took out a testicle for me. I was very lucky because they're supposed to take out both of them. Or I was lucky they left me one. And he said, I'm going to be able to have children. He said, I wouldn't lie to you. Or he was upset that he didn't tell me the story. He never forgave the other guy. The other guy got married, he never had children. He never forgave him because he told him not to tell me. And my husband was like, he would commit a crime. He was ashamed of it, what happened to him. He didn't tell the children. My children they didn't know about this even. Till, I don't know, you remember, came out a book, BQ something. A couple of years back was a book, and they were writing about. And I was reading the book, and I said to my husband, I'm going to give to Susan, to Warren, whatever read the book, because I didn't want to tell the children that to go against my husband. I said, when you want to tell him, you have to tell them yourself. My daughter was married already, and, that's how they found out what happened to their father. Or I didn't want to marry. I didn't want it. I couldn't make up my mind because I was so confused.
Very important?
Yeah, it was very important to me because I wanted to have names for my parents, for my sisters. Then the same story, maybe I'm old-fashioned, maybe you don't believe in it. Passed by weeks, I didn't talk to my husband. To him, I didn't talk to him, and I looked for all kind of excuses. I said, you're a soccer player, I don't like when a man should play soccer. I looked for all kind of excuses.
This was yet back in Germany?
This was in Leipheim, yeah. Not to be with him, or we loved each other, and then came, I don't know you believe, in my dream, my mother came to me, and she said to me, don't throw him away, he's a good guy, married him. And she made up the mind for me, and we got married. After a couple of months, we married, May 19, 1945.
And where did you get married?
In Leipheim. Yeah. And thank God, through the year, my daughter was born April 29, 1946.
In Germany?
In Germany, yeah. When I got pregnant, I couldn't believe it, because till I didn't feel the baby, I still didn't believe it, because with all the talks, with all the this.
It was a double miracle.
Yeah, it was another miracle, and he was ashamed of it. He was ashamed like he would commit a crime. And he was, all the years, bothered him. In a way, he was lucky that they left him with one, because a lot of his friends, they took out both of them. I know the people. You know, I met them in Israel from his town. And that was the wife's story.
And when was your son born?
My son was born here.
In New York?
Yeah, in 1950. We came here in 1945, and believe me, we could have had half a dozen children too, or we couldn't afford it. I was happy to have my daughter. Then when my son was born, you know, we came, we had nothing. We didn't have anything. We didn't have anybody. Then we had to survive.
When you came to America, where did you go?
We came, they sent us to Richmond, Virginia, you know.
Okay.
My husband, we couldn't get any papers. And they were looking for farmers. My husband said he's a farmer. He's a farmer. They sent us to Richmond, Virginia to look for a farm. Meanwhile, there wasn't any work even there. They lived there for a while. We were very independent. I didn't like to take anything from anybody. This is my problem too now, you know. And he went to work like whatever job he could get, 18 hours a week, whatever. Then my girlfriend came to New York, where we were neighbors at home. We lived through together. And she called me up. She said, "You come to visit me. What do you have there in Richmond?" The people, what they knew Jewish, they didn't want to speak Jewish, you know, because we didn't know any English. Then was hard. Then when I came to New York, and I came to my friend, and I saw I have a lot of friends here, I went back to Richmond, and I said to my husband, I don't want to live there, you know, or I was pregnant. And my husband came by himself to New York here to look for a job. At home, he was a big shot, a businessman. Over here, he had no trade. Then he had no job. Then somebody told him, once man of yours has a factory, go there. And he went to this factory. He said, you know, some guy was a presser and he dropped dead. You want to learn to be a presser? He said, I have to do anything because I have a wife with a child and the other one is on the way. And he became a worker in New York. That's the life story.
It's life. Once you were in New York and you lived with your husband and your two children, and how was his health?
His health?
Yeah.
He was a very healthy man.
Healthy person.
Yeah, he was a very healthy. He was never sick in his wife. He was never sick. We were married almost 47 years. It's going to be now January 21st. He passed away January 21st, 1993. It's going to be 3 years now. He was never sick in his wife. Or he was a depressed person, the same thing, because he was the only survivor. He went to Auschwitz he was married before the war. He had a wife and a little girl from 2.5 years old. And he went with his wife, with his daughter, with his mother, and his two brothers and a sister. One sister was hiding in the Irish papers as a Gentile. When almost the end of the war, she was someplace in a train, and they picked in a Jewish girl, and she stood up for her, and they killed her just before the liberation.
So if he would be here, he could tell us his story.
He could tell us the story, or I try to do my best to tell something of his story too. You know.
Since you came to America and the big dangers passed, did your mother ever come to you in your dream?
Always.
She seems to guide you all the time.
Older, my mother and my father.
Both
You know, when I got pregnant here with my son, my husband came. My husband never knew my father. My husband woke up and he said, "You want to know something? You're going to have a boy. I saw your father." I said, "You saw my father? You never knew my father." And he described to me how my father looked. He said, "You're going to have a boy." And I have to thank God I have a son after my father. My daughter is my mother. My grandchildren, and the most I try to give them the names for my sisters and my brothers.
Did I leave out anything you would like to talk about?
I think I talked a lot. I couldn't believe it that I can do this. I don't know. I did it.
Do you think sometimes back of what gave you this
I don't know.
energy?
I think a lot of back. Why was I the chosen one from a big family? Why? Because maybe I should remember. Then I wouldn't be, nobody would remember even, you know. And after the war, when I met people from my brother's town, where he lived, then they told me, when you're a sister from Mukhubu Kafka, we should stand up for you. You know, then we were a very close family. We were a close family, and I make it. And now in my age, I don't care. I try my best because my children are pushing me. Because when my husband passed away, I really felt like to give up because we had a very good marriage, you know.
Good life together.
A good life together. We went through a lot. We didn't have much. We were always happy. I never envied anybody. Somebody else had more, you know. We came to this country with nothing. I lived in a 6th floor in Williamsburg. I woke up. Plenty of times I said wasn't worth it to live through concentration camp, to walk up 6 floors with 2 babies. Or we made it. We were happy, whatever we did.
You worked as a sample maker?
Yeah. Then when my kids got older, they were able to go to school. And after school, I was able to send them to Hebrew school. Then I started to go to work to help out.
You showed me before that your hands often shake.
Often shake, they shake. Since I was liberated.
That happened right
That
after.
happened, you know. You know, I went to a lot of doctors here, and they said, it's something what some people after the liberation they got crazy, they went to crazy house. Some people had all kind of sickness, and I remained with my shaking hands.
What made you decide to tell us your story now?
I didn't want it. I will tell you the truth, I didn't want it. Just, I feel bad for the kids. They said, "Ma, where are you? We don't know your sister's names, your brother's name. We don't know what kind of family you had. And we wouldn't know anything." Daddy didn't want to do it because he wasn't able to do. He had a very bad, he went through hell. He went through a lot. He went through more than I did because he was married and he had a wife and with a child, and to see them go to the crematorium, you know, and to see his 2 brothers go to, I didn't see nobody from my family. It's whatever I know, and you know, I watched the show and I knew how my parents died. I didn't know, you know. I didn't know. I didn't know what happened.
You did it for your children?
I did it for my children. Now I have a great-grandchild. I have great-grandchildren. Then let them know. I told you, in the cemetery, I designed my own monument.
How is that monument?
My monument is I wrote for the guy what he should do. Is my husband holds my hand, and it's my number in my hand and his number in his hand. This is the monument in the cemetery. And the top of the stone, instead of star, I gave the emblem from the concentration camp. And it's written down Holocaust survivors. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
I did it. I did it.